Okay. We live? You ready? Great. Can you hear me? All right. Hello, I'm Roger Millar, Washington State Secretary of Transportation. I like to tell people I'm the Secretary of the Good Washington. Welcome to the Engineering and Public Works Roadshow event featuring our very own Colman Dock project. I want to thank everybody who's here today with us along Seattle's beautiful waterfront. I have a bit of a dual role here today. I'm certainly proudly representing WashDOT and Washington State Ferries, but I've also served with the American Society of Civil Engineers in a variety of roles. I've been a member of ASCE since 1981. I was elected a fellow in 1999, and just earlier this year I was elected a distinguished member, which is something that I'm very humbled by. I was a member of the National Board of Direction of ASCE from 2017 to 2020, and I just stepped down in 2023 as president of the Society's Transportation and Development Institute. So ASCE is kind of in my blood. We have more than 150,000 members in 177 countries. So we really do take a global approach. And that's why ASCE has partnered with the other organizations in this roadshow series, with the American Public Works Association and the American Council on Engineering Companies. We want to highlight some of the incredible and vital work that engineers and public works professionals are providing to society. And we also very much want to share with young people the benefits of pursuing a career in these industries. This Colman Dock project, which was constructed while the busy terminal was still in use, and no doubt during this we're going to have a boat come in and there'll be a bunch of people that'll walk through the presentation. It's an excellent example of the work that our engineers and public works officials do day in and day out to keep people and goods moving both by land and by sea. This new gem on the Seattle waterfront is a culmination of years, indeed decades of work and planning by many, many partners. You're going to hear from a number of them today. This is a multimodal and environmentally friendly facility. It connects people to light rail, to buses, to our regional bicycle network, to micro-mobility options here on the waterfront and in the downtown. It has dedicated bike holding areas, a bike corral, and connections to all of the regional trails. This facility is designed to accommodate our hybrid electric fleet. We're converting our Washington State Ferry fleet to hybrid electric. The first boat, the Wenatchee, is across the way at Vigor right now being converted, and she'll be back and sailing out of Colman Dock in the fall as our very first electric boat. We've worked with Seattle City Light and other partners on bringing shore power down here, and that's a part of the Colman Dock project. We'll have electric vessels traveling to Bremerton and to Bainbridge Island from Colman Dock. They will be hybrid because we need to have the diesel backup in the event the power grid goes down for something pesky like a Cascadia subduction zone earthquake, for example. This facility also features innovative design and construction approaches. It was our first ever GCCM contract method. It's the General Contractor / Construction Manager. It's an innovative contracting method that allowed us to move forward with construction while we were completing the design. We were able to open, and we had to open 1/3 of this new building to passengers so that we could remove the old building from the site. While the new terminal was important and remains important, equally important was maintaining the service for the nearly 10 million people who use this terminal annually throughout the construction. And on top of that, we had the pandemic to deal with. So commuters and travelers and businesses and emergency vehicles all rely on Washington State Ferries, and they all rely on this terminal. We had to deliver for the future while still meeting the very real needs of today. So beyond the steel and the concrete, our engineers and public works projects are about people and improving communities. I love talking to young engineers. I tell them, if you want to work with people, be a civil engineer. You're not going to see that in computer science or mechanical or chemical or any of those. The people you'll work with are your colleagues. Here as a civil, I get to work with some great colleagues, but everything I do affects everybody in our society. That's why events like these are important to us. We're about, love that sound. Maybe the Kraken have scored a goal, who knows? Anyway, we're all about enhancing quality of life, protecting the environment, keeping our economy running smoothly, providing access and opportunity to all, and aesthetic beauty. This is a handsome place. I really do like it. Events like these are really important to share the many ways that students could make a difference if they pursued a career in engineering or public works. Right now, our industry faces a lot of challenges. We have profound infrastructure needs in the United States, and we have a lack of workers. We're working really hard to ramp up our workforce for our current workload and for future projects. Without more engineers and public works professionals, projects that are vital for our communities and our nation and our economy could be delayed. But those challenges also translate into really exciting opportunities for people entering the workforce. I give young engineers a lot more responsibility than I ever had as a young engineer. Sometimes it scares me to death how much responsibility I'm giving to young people. But if you're a young person entering this field, you get to play with the big toys, and you get to do meaningful, lasting work. We were talking earlier about how, you know, if you live long enough, you get to see stuff that you planned actually come to fruition. There are young people coming into this industry today that when they're my age will be able to look back on incredible, incredible stuff. People get to use their training, their new ideas to chart the course of the nation's transportation future. The sheer number of projects underway with the federal infrastructure funding that we've received also creates opportunities for people just entering our field. So I'm looking forward to welcoming many, many more young people into our industry. It's careers.wa.gov if you're interested, and seeing their great work and their accomplishments. So thank you to everyone involved in building this terminal that will serve this city and this region for generations to come. You're going to hear from a number of the parties that were part of this. And thanks for setting a great example for the engineers and the public works officials of tomorrow. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. I'm Angela Brady. I work for the City of Seattle, and I am the director of the Office of the Waterfront. I'm here to talk a little bit about Seattle's new waterfront park, located right here adjacent to this gorgeous new ferry terminal. It has been over 20 years in the making for Seattle to deliver on the promise of Waterfront Park, an unparalleled new public space located between downtown and Elliott Bay. It's taken years of planning, public engagement, designing, fundraising, and construction to get to this point with countless individuals, organizations, and partners, including the state, devoting their time, their commitment, and an incredible amount of talent to realize this vision. This program was instigated as part of the Nisqually earthquake that happened back in 2001, which started a series of conversations about the state and the city's collectively aging and failing infrastructure on the waterfront, in particular the state's SR 99 Alaska Way Viaduct, the Colman Dock ferry terminal, which you're about to hear more from Dave on that, and the city's Elliott Bay seawall, which was, excuse me. After years of study and debate, the decision was made in 2009 to replace the Alaska Way Viaduct with the SR 99 tunnel, and that decision set in motion a series of close to 50 projects valued at over $4 billion on the waterfront. In 2019, the Alaska Way Viaduct, a double-decker highway which spanned our entire downtown shoreline for 66 years, dividing our uniquely beautiful waterfront from Seattle's downtown and cutting off our city's connection to Elliott Bay, was actually removed. And with its removal, the work of reconnecting our city to the water was able to begin with the creation of Waterfront Park, which will create more than 20 acres of public open spaces that Seattle can be proud of. To that end, 2024 is a huge year for Waterfront Park. We've made so much progress over the years. The city's waterfront park will include construction of 26 city blocks along the waterfront, highlighted by a long linear park promenade that connects the Stadium District at King Street all the way up to the north end of the waterfront up to the Belltown community. New streets, new sidewalks, more than 3 miles of new bike lanes, 3 new pedestrian bridges, including the new Marion Street pedestrian bridge, connecting this beautiful new facility here at Colman Dock up to First Avenue. If you haven't seen it, check it out after we're done here. It's right behind you. A new multimodal bridge connecting the waterfront up to the Belltown community. 2 brand new piers, one at Pier 58 located between the Great Wheel and the aquarium, and one just north of the aquarium at Pier 62, which we completed in 2020. All new utilities, including new water, new sewer, new drainage infrastructure, new gas mains, all new telecommunications infrastructure, and new electrical transmission and distribution lines, some of which will provide for the future electrification of the ferry fleet right here at Colman Dock, and Roger pointed that out earlier. We are building park amenities, benches, fountains, swings, a playground, many public artworks, and wayfinding elements that intend to share stories of the history and the culture of Seattle's waterfront. We're planting 1,000 new trees, 150,000 new plants along the waterfront. We're building green stormwater infrastructure that will treat more than 7.5 million gallons through biofiltration. We are building the Overlook Walk, one of our most visible and ambitious engineering feats, which will simultaneously act as a pedestrian connector spanning between Pike Place Market and the waterfront, as well as a beautiful park and green space. Connected to the Overlook Walk, the Seattle Aquarium's new Ocean Pavilion will house over 3,500 new plants and animals, and that will be open to the public this summer, so look for that. In addition to the many improvements we're making along the waterfront, we're also building a series of pedestrian and bike improvements along key east-west connections between the waterfront and downtown, including new sidewalk and bike facilities on 24 city blocks along Pike and Pine Streets in the heart of Seattle's downtown, reconstruction of 8 blocks within Seattle's historic district and Pioneer Square, improvements along Railroad Way connecting our stadiums to the waterfront, and new sidewalks, bike lanes, and trees along several blocks in Belltown. This set of projects paves the way to revitalize Seattle's downtown and economically strengthen its neighborhoods by making the area more welcoming for visitors, residents, and empowering local businesses. The delivery of Seattle's ambitious new waterfront has relied on thousands of extremely talented multidisciplinary teams, including civil, structural, transportation, electrical, and mechanical engineers, transportation and urban design planners, landscape and building architects, project managers, environmental experts, outreach specialists, construction management professionals, and a variety of construction contractors and subcontractors, and so many more. It takes a lot of effort and resilience to sustain a vision through multiple administration changes, a worldwide pandemic, an 8-month concrete strike, and many other challenges. But collaboration between engineering and public works disciplines has been essential in the success of the delivery of the construction of the new waterfront. To turn the vision of a world-class waterfront park into reality, we have employed nearly 100 consulting firms and over 2,000 engineering and planning professionals. There have been about 6,100 construction workers on this program, 27% of which are workers who live in King County's poverty areas with low educational attainment and high unemployment, 15% of which are either women or minority-owned businesses. And then on a personal level, it is an absolute honor and a privilege to be carrying out the vision set forth by so many inspiring and incredible leaders over the years. I'm so proud to be leading this effort toward the finish line alongside some of the absolute best in the engineering and construction industry. I have been a board member of the Washington chapter of the American Public Works Association over the last several years, and I've really enjoyed my time there with that great organization, and I admire both the work of ASCE and ACEC as well. For those considering careers in engineering and public works, we have plenty of projects, plenty of jobs that really need your talent and your skills. There's so many needs and opportunities for engineers and public works professionals, and the work we all do to serve the public is vitally important. Whether it's keeping transportation moving for all modes and all people, ensuring access to clean drinking water, managing or treating stormwater, maintaining our existing infrastructure and building new infrastructure, creating new incredible public spaces like the work we're doing right here on the iconic Seattle waterfront, and so much more. I'm loving my career in civil engineering, and I extend a huge thanks to others in our industry who are making the world a better place, one project at a time. In closing, I'd like to say, keep an eye on Seattle's new waterfront. It's truly being transformed right before us, and we plan to open and celebrate more new waterfront projects as we complete them this year. And in less than a year, we'll be inviting people to experience all that is Waterfront Park as part of a grand opening celebration. So stay tuned for a special invite to that event. Thank you so much for having me today.
Good afternoon. My name is Van Collins. I'm the President and CEO of the American Council of Engineering Companies of Washington. And I will make sure I keep my comments brief, although they will be a certain variation on a theme here. To talk about a little bit about ACEC, we're a nationwide federated organization whose primary mission is the representation of consulting engineering firms across the nation and the state of Washington. In Washington, we have approximately 150 member firms ranging in size from single shingle practitioners to some of the largest engineering firms performing public works engineering services across the country. And so it's an honor to be representing those organizations and to speak on their behalf. Encompassing that is all engineering disciplines, and most notably, these firms employ over 7,500 of the top caliber engineering professionals in the state and represent the oldest and most foundational and most profound type of high tech. And I do say high tech because I truly mean that. We're thrilled to be here today, shoulder to shoulder with our esteemed partners, the American Public Works Association and the American Society of Civil Engineers. And also want to recognize our public sector host, the Department of Transportation, for allowing us to come and celebrate Colman Dock and the waterfront and what it means to not only Seattle, but the state of Washington and the region. It is really that paramount to what we are trying to accomplish. It would be, one thing is when you look at projects like this is that sometimes what is not appreciated, however, is that transportation infrastructure, public works infrastructure is truly what underpins our society, our civilization. It is not hyperbolic to say that, really. It might seem it, but it's truly not. The Colman Dock is testament to the highway systems, rail systems, and waterways that efficiently move people through their daily lives and move goods to market. In addition, consider the value and importance of our region's dams and reservoirs that protect against flooding and manage our water resources for irrigation, for drinking water, and for clean energy generation. With the recent COVID epidemic so fresh in our minds, also consider where we would be if we did not have modern stormwater and sewage systems, both to protect our environment and literally protect our own lives. Lastly, where would we be as a society and culture without buildings like schools, hospitals, libraries, museums, and centers of government? Think if such public infrastructure and investment did not exist, and how easy it is to take it for granted. Lastly, everyone here today agrees that the Colman Dock is a wonderful, tangible, and visible example of the type of quality transportation and infrastructure projects that are being performed in Washington State. Yet, speaking on behalf of the state's consulting engineering firms, I can honestly say it's not surprising. Washington's engineering talent, whether public or private, is second to none. It is truly the case. We have some of the most talented individuals in the country and in the world. And it is proof that we will produce such public benefit going forward, and that what we really hope is that as our youth see these kind of projects, that they will be enticed to think of the possibility of being engineers in the future, and that they will dream of being part of something so consequential. Thank you.
All right, adjust the mic here for all the short people before me. Good afternoon, I'm David Sowers. I'm the Director of Terminal Engineering for Washington State Ferries. And I'm very excited to welcome you all here to Colman Dock. We're very proud to be recognized by ASCE as part of the Roadshow. When I talked to the organizers at first about the Roadshow, my first thought was of my grandmother and her collection of antique fiestaware, plates and saucers, cups and bowls. But obviously today is not about priceless treasures in your attic. And yet similarly, it is about something that's very difficult to place a value upon. And that is the value of infrastructure that it's had on our local community, visitors, and the residents of this great state of Washington. As administrators and engineers, we hold a dollar value to these projects. These projects have a budget set by the state legislature, and we do everything in our power to build these projects to that budget. But the real value of these projects far exceeds their assigned monetary designation. These projects improve safety. They improve accessibility to all. They offer connections to other modes that make travel more seamless and more efficient. Here at Colman Dock, we also provide other amenities for commuters and tourists on their travels to and from work or to their favorite Airbnb. None of these features can be monetized. And yet there is a value in that infrastructure that it has on our community that is really, truly priceless. Some of you know that I love to tell stories about the Alaskan Way Viaduct Replacement Program, where I spent 10 years of my career. In those early years, we interviewed several of the men that worked in the mid and late 50s to construct that double-decked highway along the waterfront. 60 years later, their passion for building that elevated highway was obvious in their remembrances. They spoke fondly of the tools and construction techniques they used then and the contributions that they made to build that viaduct. Their passion for infrastructure was apparent all those years later. Decades later, almost a half a century later, that same passion exists within the folks that built the tunnel that replaced the viaduct. That passion exists in Angie's team, in the teams that replaced the Alaska Way Surface Street, and that passion exists in the infrastructure here at WSF and our team that gathered and replaced the 1960s era Colman Dock with a new state-of-the-art facility. So let me talk first about some of the facility features, and then I'll talk more about those teams. In the terminal design and construction, we are continually looking forward to ensuring that our terminals are more environmentally viable, more resilient, and more connected to other modes of transportation. The Seattle terminal follows on the success of our Mukilteo terminal, which opened in December of 2020. And this new terminal includes a dock and terminal building built to current seismic standards, 30,000 square feet of public space with areas for ticketing and queuing, a LEED Silver project that includes passive heating and cooling in the terminal building, among other elements. We removed over 7,500 tons of creosote-treated wood from the water and opened up 180 new linear feet of shoreline by removing old asphalt and contaminated material along the habitat. And finally, we acknowledge the tribes by using their names in our upcoming plazas that we're constructing. We're installing tribal art, and we're working with the tribes on interpretive boards so that we can share the rich tribal history with terminal users and passerbys. And finally, I'd like to take a moment to thank our partners on this project that have a lot of passion about infrastructure. They include NBBJ Architects, our engineer of record, WSP, and Hoffman Pacific, and the dozens and dozens of construction subconsultants and subcontractors. The vision and intention of our architectural team resulted in an incredible design that highlights the beauty of Elliott Bay and is a welcoming beacon on the waterfront at night. Our engineering partner, WSP, ensured that the dock and the terminal building met current seismic design and fire life safety standards and supported the construction administration through this whole process, reviewing shop drawings and submittals, cost estimating, and answering 1 million RFIs. And finally, this all could not have happened without our contractor, Hoffman Pacific LLC, who has been our GCCM contractor during the final design and for the past 7 years of construction. They expertly helped WSU keep the terminal operations open through construction and through the careful phasing and staging. They managed construction through COVID and with minimal time extensions and resequenced their work around a 75-day concrete strike. I really appreciate the partnership of these key firms with Washington State Ferries to build this new terminal. And I want to thank you all for joining us today. The future is bright for WSF as our teams continue to replace aging terminals, address climate change, and prepare as best as we can for future seismic events. Thank you.
There you go. I don't have to adjust the mic height at all. Hi, I'm Mike Ray. I'm a structural engineer with WSP. I was the project manager for the consulting team and engineer of record for the construction of the trestle deck. That's the car driving level and foundations below us. I'm a member of ASCE and part of the Ports and Harbor Committee, part of COPRI overall, and have been actively working on projects on the water for the last 30 years exclusively. I've been actively on this project for over 9 years and have had a front row seat to much of the development. The Colman Dock is a spur to economic growth and looking beyond the initial first cost of designs and construction, although from the design side we had hundreds of professionals working on this project over the course of time, with more than 100 professionals giving years worth of their professional life to this project. At completion, long-term continuation of providing an essential transportation link and multimodal center to one of the West Coast's most vibrant cities. And in between, during construction, the difficult part, the project was planned, designed, and constructed so as to never have to suspend service. And that, yes, that means construction while the public is assessing the site daily, looking at the construction, pointing at things. The project team, being WSF, the designer, and the contractor, managed the construction phasing so as to never interrupt the vital role the facility plays as a transportation nexus. And there's been a few surrounding projects. You talk about infrastructure projects all contained in a very small area. The Colman Dock project touched on and overlapped with the removal of the viaduct, which you heard about, the construction of the Alaska Way seawall project and the tunnel, the construction of the new King County passenger-only offshore facilities. The trestle part was part of the Colman Dock project. And construction of the Alaskan Way improvement project. There's been no shortage of major infrastructure projects interaction. This project replaces the 1964 construction of the trestle and terminal building. Many of the foundation elements on the 1964 construction were set on piles driven in 1938. They were reused during the 1964 construction. Without replacement, this facility was susceptible to catastrophic loss. This project entails both independent structures and very interdependent structures. We are standing on very interdependent structures right now, as these building structures and the highway structures below us. The interdependence meant that the engineering team needed to provide designs, especially in seismic design, meeting both AASHTO and IBC code requirements, and they don't necessarily get along very well. The entire ferry terminal is over water. It's hard to tell when you're up here, out onto the structure. It encompasses 6.8 acres of new and existing trestle footprint. The trestle at our offshore edge here, it's 70 feet from the car deck level down to the mud line. And below us, not at that end particularly, but we have up to 40 feet of liquefiable soils within this footprint of the site here. There is enough room and space to fit between the top of the trestle deck level to our bearing glacially compacted soils to fit a 10-story building. The design team and construction administration was first rate. Design team consisted of 16 firms, plus designs provided by WSF and designs by the WSDOT Bridge Office. It made up a very productive group. After design, the design group also supported the WSF Terminal Construction Group. During the construction phase, I had the privilege of working with each of these firms and the WSDOT groups and bringing this up into a successful single package to give to the contractor, and then working together through construction. With the split of state design and consultant design work and interaction, it was a very cooperative effort. And last thing to leave with here, Seattle is one of those wonderful cities in which the past and the present overlap, just as they do with the Colman Dock. Beyond the history of the site here of the Colman Terminal for shipping and transportation and later a ferry terminal, if you look off to the south edge of the facility, the structure is built over another piece of Seattle's history, the one that we don't talk about much. It's the historic Skid Row, so named as that's where they skidded the logs down to the water for shipping during the 19th century. It is incredible to realize that as we stand back here glancing at Seattle's history, this facility is designed to see the beginning of the 22nd century. And hello to the other folks at the design group out there. I see WSP, NBBJ, and KPFF folks in the audience. That's all. Thank you.
Just one more thought before we wrap it up. You know, the opportunity to make a pitch to young men and women that there are opportunities for you in this business, working on facilities and you know, infrastructure like the Colman Dock. We, as a part of our construction contracts, require our contractors to have 15%, a minimum of 15% of their labor hours performed by apprentices. And we at WashDOT have a pre-apprenticeship support services program that brings women and people of color into the construction trades. And I'm proud to say when you look at our work statewide, 45% of the apprentice hours worked on WashDOT contracts are worked by women and people of color, which is an amazing thing. So you've heard about the facility, you've heard about the facilities nearby and how it relates to what's happening regionally and nationally. You've heard about the professionals and the skilled trades that go into this work and the opportunities that exist going forward. So thank you for joining us today. I think all of us will be around if you have any questions, but enjoy the rest of your day. And if you've got a little time, take a boat over to Bainbridge and see what it's like. Thank you.